Hey guys, Ronnie here. This week's episode is brought to you by NelsieSpencer.com. Everything Nelsie Spencer and Losing It is on NelsieSpencer.com. There you can find links to Nelsie's book, movie, and classes. Take Nelsie's writing classes or get one-on-one coaching and sharpen your writing skills. Take classes like screenwriting class and novel writing first draft. If you'd like to support the show, grab a couple things at the Losing It merch store where we have mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, hats like this one, the one I'm wearing, and much more. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out links to NelsieSpencer.com and other things such as the links to our equipment we use and all our social handles in the description down below. And if you want to contact us, tell us you love us, hate us, want to tell us you're losing a story and possibly have Nelsie read it on the show, email us at losingitcontact@gmail.com.
Losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it. If you got a story, we don't care if it's happy or gory, so come share your losing it story with us. Oh, hello, and welcome to Losing It with me, Nelsie Spencer, the podcast where guests come on and tell a story about something they've lost. Could be something tangible, could be a feeling, could be, I don't know. Just pay attention and keep listening. And I'm here with the wonderful and talented, I know I say that every week, and wow, bearded. He's got a real beard going. No trimming going on at this point. The beautiful and talented Ronnie Whaley. Hey, Ronnie.
Hello. Yes. Is it really? Is it that long now? You know, I've had it way longer. I don't know.
Go ahead.
I've had it way
it's just
longer.
the side view. I just saw that you're not trimming. You're not trimming the neck hair. There's no
in a
neck.
while.
There's no beard grooming going on. Am I correct about that?
There is, but I've been focusing on this area because I get the whiskers.
Oh,
and I totally forget about this area.
He's pointing to his cheeks. So he's cleaning the cheeks up, not doing much about the neck.
And the separation here. I got to do the separation here. Yeah.
Separation between mustache and beard. So there is some thought involved.
Yeah. I always forget about this. About this.
You can't forget about that. I'm just saying. I
know, right?
It makes a big difference if you clean that puppy up.
Yeah, I feel so. You know, my brother, he just got facial hair. Like he just got it in, right?
It just came in Monday night.
It just came in, yeah.
Amazon delivered it.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. Same day delivery. He started shaving and like he's asking me like shaving advice. He's like 17. And I saw that he shaved like up to like here. Like he's shaving his neck, but he's shaving it up to the jawline. So it like you know what I mean? Like there's no, right under the chin is no hair. And then above that is hair. And I told him, don't do that.
It's not looking
because
good.
It's like you're painting hair on your face. Like it doesn't look natural. Is this interesting?
Yeah.
Is this interesting to anybody?
What's trending now? How to trim your beards? Trending on TikTok. All those beard tutorials, which there are. There are beard tutorials.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised. I should actually get on that.
Yeah, come on. Get on that and teach them or learn from them?
Learn.
Just, learn. I didn't want to make an assumption. So what's new? Besides your brother's facial hair.
That is new.
That is new. That's new. That's exciting.
Well, you know how I'm leaving the country. I'm fleeing the country because of the warrants and stuff.
Child support. Deadbeat dad.
I forgot. So last time I was in the States and came back home, I told no one. I told no one at home, all my friends back home that I was coming back. And it was awesome because everyone thinks I'm in the States. And then I went to my friend Edgar's place and I just like knocked on his door and then he was taking a nap and he opened the door and like the shock in his face, it was just amazing. Like because he just thought that I was, halfway across the world. And I'm just like,
He thought you were a 12-hour plane ride away. And then he was like, dude, So he was really, so you got to experience him being really happy and excited and surprised.
Yeah, and I did it to multiple people. It was awesome. And I love I think about it because I love my entrances, because I'll get, what I do is I get one person, I tell them so that they can tell me where everyone is. And then we're like, we're meeting up at this place. And then so let's say they're meeting at a bar. I'll show up at the place, have a drink at the bar, and they're at a table, and just have a drink at the bar for like 25 minutes until someone casually passes by. And they're like,
you are working this. So
it's
are you
so
doing
fun.
it this time? Or are you do people know you're coming? Well, if they listen to the podcast, and if they don't, are they still your friends?
Well, Edgar specifically, he remembers like me doing that, and he's been trying to get the date out of me like for the past month. He keeps trying to like ask me like, so when are you coming back again, or what? And I haven't failed yet. And he does listen to this podcast, so he's trying to get information and intel. He knows that I'm coming back, but he doesn't know when.
He doesn't know when, and we're just going to keep it that way.
Yeah, and by the time this episode comes out, actually, I'll be in the Philippines, and
exactly.
He would have already known.
So, Edgar, how'd it go? Did he surprise you? Huh? Were you napping? Huh?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. Oh, actually watched some Olympics, which I really hadn't done. I feel like I'm, un-American or something. I mean, because, whatever country you're in, you're supposed to root for your country. And I did see Simone Biles. Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah. And she's doing the individual, and she was doing a good job. And I was very proud of her. So go Simone. That's it. That's what I brought to the table, that I watched the Olympics for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
I've got to have something more than that. Did you know the Olympics are on? Did you know that there's gymnastics as one of the events? Oh, it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, actually, the Philippines, which I'm half Philippines.
You are you are half of the Philippines.
Ronnie, I'm half of the Philippines. Yeah. We won our first gold medal in like 200 years. And it was like a huge deal.
No kidding.
Yeah. Women's weightlifting.
Wow. Huh.
Excellent. A big deal. Yeah. It was big. It was a huge deal. Yeah.
That is huge.
It is. And she flew back, and she got like a whole like press tour, and everyone's just like going crazy.
Ticker tape parade. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good for her. Do you know how old she is?
I don't.
All right. We're gonna have to do some Googling. Women's weightlifting. That is awesome. That is awesome. Really very exciting. Very exciting. So we have a fun guest. No, we have a boring guest. He's horrible. You're going to hate him. No, we have. So we have a guest who's, to tell you the truth, I don't know that much about him, which I kind of like. I like going on into interviews where I don't know. I know that he's a comic. I know that he's a he, and I know his name is Paul Green. So let's check him out. All right. So here we are, guys. Once again, Ronnie has found me somebody who, even though I've only been talking to him for about 3 minutes, I already like him. And he's a stand-up comic. Yeah, I know. He was so worried. He's like, oh my God, what if she doesn't like me? He's a stand-up comic. I saw one of his sets that made me laugh out loud, which we will discuss. And I'm so happy to have him on. And his name is Paul Green. Hey, Paul.
Hello. Lovely to be here. I like you as well within the first 3 minutes. So.
Oh, hoo-hoo.
It's not going to be one of those interviews.
Not one of those interviews where everything's very awkward and annoying. And
right.
Oh, I have to say, I've only had a couple of those. And man, wow, those are tough. Those are tough. People don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna put other people down. Yeah, no, let's not dwell. So where are you? Are you in Angelino, Paul? Are you in Los Angeles?
Yes, Los Angeles adjacent. I live technically in Pasadena proper, but I I call myself a Los Angelino because, it makes me feel better about myself or something.
Although Pasadena's a pretty nice address, right?
I love me some Pasadena. I am very happy where I ended up on my Los Angeles dream.
I have to tell. And so where are you from originally?
I was raised in Arizona. I was actually born in Riverside, California, but I spent almost all my life in Arizona, the Phoenix area, and then moved back to Los Angeles. Gosh, it would have been 6-7 years ago to pursue the old Hollywood dream and landed in Pasadena.
Landed in Pasadena, which, for those people who don't know California well and Hollywood and Pasadena, I'm just saying Pasadena, nicer than Hollywood. Nicer the place to live. Hollywood, like downtown Hollywood, sketchy.
Nope. I'm very happy where I am, and I'm, it's a quick hop on the freeway, even with LA traffic, to get to all things Hollywood. And I don't have to live in Hollywood, and so I feel very fortunate to be in the situation I'm in.
And so that's a big switch from Arizona, from Phoenix to LA. I mean, they're both deserts. But, I feel like what was the biggest sort of cultural shift for you to go from Phoenix, where you'd been all your life, to LA, which is sort of a one industry town. Everybody's tan, everybody's naked, like a lot of palm trees. It's like,
yeah, well, a lot of palm trees in Arizona. I would probably say the biggest cultural shock for me would just be parking and real estate prices.
Oh my God.
But
Isn't that the truth?
Other than that, it was not too much of a shock. And I came out with a purpose. Nobody moves to LA because they love traffic. We're all out here because we think we're a unicorn to some degree or another. And
yes,
it's just kind of what comes with the, I think I'm a unicorn territory, is like, all right, I'm going to pay 3 times as much for 3 times as less real estate. And parking's going to be a challenge, and freeways and traffic. But other than that,
but you're digging it. You like it.
I'm loving it. And, just out here trying to figure it out like everybody. So,
but you've been there, 7 years?
Let's see. I moved out. It would have been fall of 2015. So what are we fall? So
you're about to have
my 6-year mark.
About to have your 6th year. So fantastic. And didn't look back.
No, I've just been loving it ever since. Every once in a while I'll be like, man, that Austin, Texas sure sounds nice. But yeah.
Yeah, and they have a big comedy world, right? They have a pretty big comedy community.
Because there's been a big exodus of talent to Austin, Texas in midst of the pandemic. Kind of spearheaded by Joe Rogan, who was like, I'm bailing on
out
LA
of here.
And I'm moving to Austin. I want the freedom. And so he's like creating a club out there, and this huge explosion of comedy out there.
As long as the real estate prices go down because Joe Rogan left, that's fine. You know what I mean? Joe, sorry to see you go, but if I can now get a studio apartment for less than $2,000, I'm down.
Totally.
So how much are you digging what's the big difference between the comedy scene in Phoenix? I mean, obviously, because it's such a bigger, you're kind of a big fish in a little pond, I would think, in Phoenix. And then coming out to LA, what was sort of the big shockaroo, if there were any, about coming out here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main difference. Just the pond fish analogy definitely holds true. And the market out here just seems so saturated. It's just so shocking to me because I still have a lot of connections in Arizona when I go do shows out there, that there's just an audience there of people who are like, oh, I want to go see a comedy show. And I don't really feel that out here. Out here, it's like I'm either begging my friends to come support my comedy show, or people are going to go see a celebrity. It's like on any given night, out of any of the 10 comedy clubs within a stone's throw, any night you can see that guy or that girl who's been on that thing or that show or that whatever. And that's been the real shocker. It's just so rare to just, to me, the challenge is just getting butts in seats when you're not a celebrity, as compared to Arizona, to where just people are
just come out like, oh, let's go see comedy. Not let's go see this comic. Let's go see comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in Arizona, Phoenix is a fairly big market. So, you'll definitely get celebrities passing through, but it's not like, here where like literally any given night of the week, you can see big celebrities pretty much any night at any of the numerous stages. And so it's definitely not like that in Arizona to where like, maybe you'll get, a touring, big headliner touring through, once or twice a month. But, all the other nights, there's people who just want to go see entertainment and, they trust a venue or there's a venue nearby and, oh, Paul Green. Oh, I don't know who that is, but he's a comic.
But I don't care. Exactly.
That picture looks funny. I'll go see what he has to say,
He's got that weird smile. That I'm not a serial killer smile.
You've been watching my material.
That's the I am a serial killer look that you just gave.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, he does a very funny bit about what is it? You have resting murderer face. I don't know. Well, you have a sweet smile though. So when you genuinely smile, now that's the scary smile.
Yeah. That's when I try. That's when it gets creepy. Natural. I'm okay.
Which I think happens a lot. It's hard to like I remember years and years ago when I was an actor back in the day and you have to have headshots done, being a comic, having headshots. It's like, it's like torture because it's like, try to look natural, try to look gorgeous, try to look like, oh, you should hire me for this role, whatever. And I remember one of the times I had somebody who said, picture that somebody you love is behind the camera or picture somebody you love just made a joke or like, so, I don't know if that works or not, but I've used it ever since because I don't want to.
Well, did you book after that? That's the real question. Did it get you on the room?
Yeah, no. I don't know about you, but I look back at old headshots and I almost always think, what could I have been thinking? I always think that my hair's wrong or the outfit's wrong or my head's tilted too much. Yeah, right. I think you should go with this.
There's this really funny comedian friend of mine named Andrew Norelli who does this whole bit on that. Oh man, where he's just like, they always ask you to act natural, and he's like, I've never acted natural like this. He's like, I'm acting natural. Like this is not me acting natural.
Right, leaning back in the chair. Right? Yeah. And then when you get to be my age, it's always the hand is under the chin because you're just hiding this. You're just hiding the fact that your chin has started to fall. Yeah. So it's really scary. So you just leave Phoenix, you come to LA, you find a place in Pasadena, and how did you find the stand-up community? Did you find your people? Was it hard or easy to find your people?
Oh, not really. It just started with like Google searches and, I just started taking comedy classes at some of the, local clubs and start doing open mics. And you just start meeting the people who are out here hustling and you find out, who you vibe with, who you have a similar energy with. Of course, there's a lot of comics and of course, not all of them I resonate with in terms of, their energy and attitude. And I tend to be a fairly positive, supportive person. That is not always the case with a lot of comedians out here. So I feel like the tribe that I've
found a good tribe,
and we found each other are, a very loving and positive and optimistic people and genuinely love comedy, which is ironic. I find a lot of comedians who actually just seem to despise it and hate it, which I don't get, but
right. Which is part of maybe why they're not so positive, Yeah. I think it's funny because I did stand up. I did it very briefly, like 4 years ago, decided, I'm going to get back into comedy in my 60s. And then but way back in the day, like in the early 90s, late 80s, I did it. And I did find that you think that actors are insecure. Actors look like the most secure people on the planet next to comics. Like, I just feel like, and that's a bad, generalization to make, but it is, you can find a lot of people anywhere, but especially in comedy, that are so insecure, and that insecurity, manifests itself in a bunch of different ways. And sometimes maybe not being so friendly, or having a competitive vibe versus a community vibe.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a special neuroses for someone to say, every single day I need to stand in front of a group of strangers and have them validate me by the thousands constantly. I need that every single day of my life.
Every day.
I need strangers to laugh at me. Yeah, there's something going on there. Believe me, I have dove into my own therapy and psychoses to figure like, why am I not just sell insurance in Ohio with a couple of kids and a wife and happy as can be? There is something that drives that.
Absolutely. But the thing is that we have no choice. We're powerless over that. We can't it's sort of like, I remember Jane Fonda saying, I think this is a Jane Fonda quote. The only people that are actors are people who have to be actors. And I think it's the same thing with comedy, because it's so hard. It's so difficult that you do it because you have to do it. Otherwise, you would have become an insurance, and there's still time. You could, but that's not what you want to do. That's not what makes you happy. That's not what feeds you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've quit plenty of times. I just felt, what's that line in The Godfather? Every time I take him out, something comes pulling me right back in. So, yeah.
So
I
you
specifically
quit?
remember there was this one time, I was a couple years in and I was just so discouraged. I'm like, this just isn't going well and it's hard.
And were you still in Phoenix, or were you out in LA?
No, this is in LA. And I just remember saying, I even had I booked this little small alleyway show. It didn't mean anything, but I'm just I don't even want to do this, and I called the guy. I'm like, I'm not feeling well, and and I'm like, I'm done. And then 2 days later, I get a call from my first comedy teacher, who really got me started in stand-up. He's like, hey, Paul, I just had a cancellation on a headliner next week. Can you come headline this show? And I'm like, just when I think I'm out,
they pull me back in.
So, so of course I went to that show and it went really well. And I'm like, oh yeah, I actually am halfway good at this. And then I was back in it, So, I mean, those types of experiences happen enough to where I just go I don't know to what end, but I'm in it, I'm in it.
Yeah.
For the long haul, and whatever happens, but
yeah,
it'll always be a part of my life.
Well, yeah. And I think the trope that, comics are really insecure and they need attention, they need validation, and the same thing with actors and this, right? But I always say, where would we be if those types of people weren't out there? I mean, think of all the comics and what they've brought to the table. Where would we be without comedy? So thank God, right? Thank God everybody. Thank God some of us are wounded in a certain way that where we say, please love me, like me. And it makes people laugh. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
So are your parents still in Phoenix?
Yeah, they're both in, they both kind of ended up back there, but yeah, most of my family's in Phoenix. I have a pretty large family. I have a sister who's in Temecula, and then a brother in Kansas, and then
Temecula. I went to Temecula once.
Oh, no way! It's beautiful.
I co-wrote a movie that came out in 2015, and they have a film festival there, my film won. Maybe it only won Best Runner Up for Best Screenwriting.
Oh,
yeah. And I was a co-screenwriter. So I went to Temecula. What a cute little town that is.
Yeah, it's beautiful and quiet, and I loved it.
I would live
I've been
there
a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a sister in Temecula. Mom and dad are still in Phoenix. And what do mom and dad think about? I mean, I know you're a grown man, obviously, but still, when you said, Mom, Dad, I'm moving to LA, I'm going to really do this stand-up thing, how'd they take it?
By that time, I was 34 when I did that. So by that time, it's kind of I'm doing my own thing. My dad, I think, had a little bit of yeah, you never know. And, my mom didn't really,
nobody piped in.
Yeah, it was just kind of but I also don't have that relationship with my family where I'm cueing them in on everything,
Right.
We all get along good, but we're pretty kind of independent and do our own thing. So it wasn't really a factor in terms of what mom and dad thought at that time. It was just, this is what I'm doing. And I was really fortunate. The circumstances that all lined up to me moving to LA were really miraculous. Like, I had a full-time job that I could do remotely, but it was flexible. So I didn't have to move out there and try to make it on a Starbucks salary. And
do you still have that job? Do you still have that remote job?
I don't have that specific. I'm not with that company, but I'm still in their ecosystem. So I left them about 2 years ago, but now I do more of an independent contractor type thing, and I have clients and stuff. So,
and you can still do your comedy. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been very well. I don't know if it's fortunate or not. I always kind of struggle with that. If because I kind of have this safety net, if that's keeping me from really like making it, because having a paycheck is nice, but I mean, it works great for me. I guess I just wasn't built to, go live in my car in Hollywood till I got my big break. That just wasn't how I was built, and more power to the people who that's their story.
Yeah. And look, you're in Pasadena with a job you can do remotely, and you're still doing gigs all the time. So it's not getting in the way of you doing comedy and getting better.
No, not at all. And if anything, it helps because I can afford to do open mics. I can afford to travel. I can afford to do festivals. I can, to me, it's just pure benefit. And, and perhaps one day there will come a time where my comedy career is sufficient enough to where I go like,
that's absolutely what's going to happen. That's absolute. And so it will be. Ding. That's my magic wand. Yes. Why not?
It has been spoken by Nelsie Spencer, thus it shall be written
and
in
so
the annals
it shall
of
be.
the universe.
If it's said on the Losing It podcast, if I say it, yeah. Paul, come on, powerful woman.
What if that's what's lost? Nope, we don't want.
No, you're losing.
It's not going to be my losing it story. Well, Nelsie said I was going to make it.
What the fuck does she know? No, she knows. She knows. No, I think that having that thing about because I've been in the arts. I moved to New York to study acting, and then I did stand up, and then I was a playwright, and then I've done a lot of things, and it's all art and performance related. And if I know that when I'm worried about whether I can pay for gas or pay rent, I'm not being a creative. You know what I mean? It's like to know that you're coming from a safe place and being supported in that basic way, which is financial. That's fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole, it's the survival mode. It's the whole, if I go into an audition desperate, you're done, like
they smell it before you come in the door.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you, because are you into law of attraction?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
All about it. I think you gotta be
all about it.
You gotta believe in something out here.
Yeah. But it's also, to me, it's, thank God, I've, yes, we can think about abundance and joy and love and connection, or we can think about lack and anger and fear and, coming to the point where realizing that that's a choice, which I feel like I came to it a little bit late.
Right.
It's a big life changer. Life changer for me. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
But let me ask you one last question before you tell me your losing it story, because it's about time. How are the first dates going?
The first dates?
Well, you said on one of your bits that you go out on a lot of first dates. So I'm wondering if
that is a deep cut. I haven't told that joke in a long time.
I do my research, Paul. I do my research.
I will say this. I had a very nice first date a week ago, and we have a second date on Wednesday. So don't want to jinx it. Don't want to talk about it. But I've had some significant, it's kind of funny you bring that up, because there's always that struggle between what I present on stage and reality. And I'm a big believer of the philosophy. And there's a lot of debate about this, that who I am on stage is a personification of who I am, but it's not 100% me. And, because as a human being, I'm actually evolving a lot faster and improving and growing a lot faster than my stand-up material.
Your stage persona,
has a pretty significant lag. And some comedians, their persona never grows. It's like Jerry Seinfeld is Jerry Seinfeld. It's still just as petty as he was 30 years ago. He's not that petty in real life.
He said with love and compassion. He said that about Jerry. with love and compassion.
Yeah, but no, but like in real life, you think he's that. It's like, no, he's deep. He has a, wonderful wife and children.
Yeah, no,
I mean, he's
a
very
nice
deep,
guy.
compassionate, loving, talented man.
Yeah.
But on stage, he's going to complain about airline bathroom faucets. You know what I mean? And Brian Regan still acts just like a big idiot dope. What the,
Right.
He's not like that every single day.
Exactly. So your personal persona is much more closer to your stage persona.
Well, it's actually separating a lot more is what I'm saying. So like that stuff about dating and all of that stuff, like there is truth to that. There are elements of authenticity to that, but it's funny just hearing you say that. I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember that joke. It doesn't really resonate with who I am now, but when I'm on stage, I would still tell that joke and I would still be able to access a point of authenticity.
Yeah.
Although,
but you probably tell it slightly differently. Yeah, because I think that part of what makes, and I talk about this because I'm a writer and a writing teacher, but part of what creates connection in comedy and in fiction and nonfiction is the vulnerability. And part of what a lot of comics do, is they talk about, the shortcomings, and that vulnerability is what creates the connection. So, so your stage persona is a little more less evolved and a little more neurotic than yours, because that's sometimes where the jokes are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a whole, I took this class for about 2 years called Establishing Your Onstage Character Persona with a very brilliant teacher named Steve North, and like really dives into the weeds about how a stand-up comedian on stage presents themselves to the audience and how to really connect vulnerably. And I mean, and it's a fine line because there is such a thing as being vulnerable and honest and being flawed. We watch characters because there's something wrong with them, honestly, and that's how we relate.
And that's usually also why we root for them, right?
So why we root for them is want them to overcome. However, the flip side of that is if I just come off and I'm shitting on myself on stage, then the audience is kind of like,
they might feel,
right. So yes, honesty and yes, vulnerability, but so often I'll hear comics, especially like in open mics and stuff, and they'll come out and they'll go right into it, and it's not funny. And it's like to find that balance of vulnerability, weakness, flaw, but then also presenting it in a way that the audience doesn't pull back to where they dive in.
And that the audience isn't worried about you.
Yeah, the audience. Yeah. Or just doesn't go, dude, why don't you need to see a therapist,
I was doing, when I did this, and when I say I did stand up, I did like 6 sets, you know what I mean? Like I did a few sets in New York and a couple of sets in New Jersey, all open mics. And I had this joke about my dad being a sociopath. And if I told it too early in the set, people would go, oh, because they didn't know me yet, and it's like, but yeah, it's how do you walk that fine line? Well, speaking of vulnerability, you have a losing it story for me. Is that correct? Paul
I'm going to tell you the losing it story that ultimately led to me completely changing my entire life and moving to LA. Does that sound like a fun story to hear?
It sounds very fun. I like it.
So it was the year 2014. So 2014 was a very pivotal year for me. At that time, I was performing regularly with an improv troupe called Jesters in Arizona, who I'm tremendously grateful for. They pretty much gave me my 10,000 hours of performance. It was improv, it wasn't stand-up.
Yeah.
But I started performing with them in 2008. And by 2014, I was just doing all of their shows, all their corporate shows. I was teaching their classes. And I just loved this troupe. They had a huge following. I got a little bit of a fandom, a little bit of a local starhood.
You had a following.
Because of them and because of the opportunities they provided me. And at that time, I was also a realtor. So I've been selling real estate for about 10 years and wasn't really happy with real estate. It was just something I did. It was a way that I could make some money, but really my passion was with this improv troupe and performing. It always was. But then it was like every once in a while I'd have to pay a bill or two. So I'd go sell a house and make some money. And then I could, do my thing. What ends up happening is I kind of have this realization that it's like, I think I need to take a break from the improv troupe. I just want to I was just so involved in it. I'm like, I think I just need to step back for a little while. And so I did that. I told him, it's like, hey, I'm going to just take a couple months off, just kind of reanalyze my life. Right now, in that window, I randomly got an email from this comedy club that I attended a show, and I ended up on their email list. And it said, free intro to stand-up comedy class or something like that. And up until that point, I was terrified of doing stand-up and didn't think I could do it. I thought it was just out of my league, but I was like, well, I'm not doing this improv troupe. I'll just go take a class. What's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah. Which, by the way, though, every time I ever tell anybody that I did stand up, and I never in the level that you've done, and that most people call themselves stand up. I would never call myself. Everybody are always like, "Oh my God, how could you do that? So brave!" It for so many people, it is the scariest thing to do, to be up there on a stage by yourself, and your job is to make people laugh. So yeah, so you're thinking, I can do this improv thing, but I can't do that one by myself. But you went to the class.
Yeah, which is really interesting because a lot of people feel it would be opposite. It's like, well, improv, you're making it up on the spot. I'm like, yeah, the expectation is so different on the audience because they know you're making it up and you have a cast. You're not up there alone. And as improvisers, we are trained to handle any situation. We're trained to take anything that happens and turn it into comedy gold. Stand up, it's just you. The audience is like, oh, you've prepared something funny for me. Please convince me that I should laugh at you.
Exactly. They're like, okay, be funny.
Stage, the expectation is drastically different than improv.
That's so true.
So I started doing stand-up and got a lot of encouragement from my first stand-up teacher. So I did like a little 5-minute set as part of his comedy class,
Uh-huh. So you did like a set at a club.
Yeah, like a showcase, So he had a stage and everything, and good sized audience, and friends came and saw me and everything. And I did okay. I mean, I didn't think I killed it or crushed it, but I was like, I did okay. But he pulled me aside after that first performance and just sat me down. He's like, what the fuck are you doing in Arizona? And I was like,
oh my God.
He's like, why aren't you in New York? Why aren't you in LA? And at that point in my life, I guess I was 33, 34 at the time. Like, never in my life had anybody ever spoke to me that way. First of all, like, I knew I had some talent. I knew I was funny, but I never had that like, oh, I can take my talents to Los Angeles and make it. I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that mindset. And if you knew the stand-up comedy teacher, his name is Tony Visick. If you knew him, if it came from anybody else, I wouldn't have believed him. But this guy is such a straight shooter and such a no bullshit type of guy that I was like, oh, that's brand new information to me. That somebody who's been through the ringer as he has would say that about me, because I just never heard that type of feedback before.
Wow.
So that was like early 2014. So then, now we're talking about loss. So then I'm still in Arizona. I'm still kind of roaming around. I was a single man. I'd never really had a serious relationship, whatever. And I end up dating this girl who was unbelievable. And we had this unbelievable connection. I absolutely love spending time with her. She was into me. We were having a great time. Now, the thing about my real estate career is because I didn't really care about it, I didn't take it seriously enough to like really grow a real estate business. So it was very cyclical. I would just kind of ride ups and downs. And so when I started dating her, it happened to be a huge down. And this was kind of near the end of 2014. And I straight was just out of money. Like, my bank account was overdrawn. And I remember going on dates with her and she was paying for dinner because I just didn't have any money. And I had a couple deals in the works, but I was waiting for them to close or whatever.
Right.
But that's kind of the game I had been playing, And so, but I really fell for this girl and just really liked her a lot. And she like calls me over to her house one night and she just straight up dumps me and is just like, you just aren't financially stable. And I want to get married and have a family. And sorry, she's like, I love your heart. You're so great. I love getting along with you. I love spending time with you, but I need some financial stability. And just, like right where I'm most insecure and right where I'm feeling most vulnerable about, being a man and being able to provide and have that sense.
Yeah. And that's so true because for men, I think, their egos, because of the way the culture is, your ego is so attached to your income and with women, it's usually much more, what you look like, what your weight is, how big your boobs are, whatever. But with men, it's like, how many commas are in your income? You got some commas, buddy, and wow. And especially to have her say, I love your heart, but it's not even like, it's not working out. I don't really like you. No, I really dig you. Yeah. But you're not making any, I want to have kids and oh my God.
Yeah. And I was just devastated. So I drove home from that. I'm bawling, I'm like praying the most pathetic prayers to whatever God is, given an ear up there. And, I took like, I actually had this, this trip that I had planned, this kind of like weekend retreat thing that I was going to. So I drove, it was like it might even be longer than that. It was like a 12-hour drive or something like that. And I just drove by myself and just like meditated and prayed this whole drive up there and the whole drive back or whatever. And all of a sudden this huge realization came to me. And it's just like, I need to quit real estate and I need a full-time job. Like in order for this next step of growth and evolution and who I am, it's so funny because so many people say, quit your job and become an entrepreneur. I needed to do the opposite. I needed to quit being an entrepreneur and I needed a 9-to-5 to ground me. And I needed a boss to tell me, show up here and we're going to give you this paycheck. And so I ended up, getting hired on by this software company that I had known about for a couple of years. And I'd actually applied to them a couple of times, but had never gotten in. But I had a bunch of friends who were like, Paul, you're going to love this software company. You need to come work for us. It's this great company. They got a great culture. You'll fit in just fine. And when I came back from that weekend trip with all this meditation and prayer and stuff, I just kind of went, I'm going to go get that job now. And so I quit real estate, which I've been doing for 10 years, which of course was like a huge step for me to like let go of that because it had served me well and it provides so much flexibility.
There's the carrot in the real estate world is very big. Like if I sell this, you get these big old, the potential to make a boatload of money on one sale is there. So that carrot can keep you in.
And plus, right? And I was my own boss. Like I was nobody told me where to. I decided if I got up and worked. I decided if I went and marketed. I decided,
right. And there's pluses and minuses to that.
Right. Exactly. Right? And for me, like it was, like I said, I'm like, I just knew that for me and my growth, I needed a job and a steady paycheck. And just to also give me that confidence to show like, no, I can actually sustain an income and I can be responsible and all of that. So I ended up getting this job.
And it's I just want to say, because I think the money thing is such a big piece of well, first of all, it's just a basic piece of survival, but it's also a big piece of creating stability, but a self-esteem thing too.
Oh, and so for mental health and emotional health and everything.
And so being able to go, no, this is what taking care of me looks like. It really, you could think that, real estate with no, that's the thing that would be more attractive, but that stability and being willing to step up in a way that you never had to before. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately ended up being probably the most significant decision of my life, because what ended up happening, so I started working for this software company called Infusionsoft. They are now called Keep. At the time, they had a full-time employee whose official title was Dream Manager, and I'm not making that up. He was this glorified life coach whose only job was to help all the employees fulfill their dreams, right? So I start working for this company. I meet this guy. His name's Dan Ralph, unbelievable human being. We're still friends to this day. And so I just start meeting with him. And on the first time I meet with him, he just sits me down. He's like, what's the thing that you really want that you're so afraid to say because you think it's so ridiculous and it could never happen, but deep inside you really want it? And I knew instantly what it was. It's like, I want to be on a sitcom. Like, I have wanted to be on a sitcom since I was a child. And there's a whole reason behind that, psychological and daddy issues and stuff. But it's like...
and also because it would be really fucking fun.
And also because it would be really fucking fun.
Hello?
Right? And I watched like, I would watch The Office, and I would see these character actors and like, these guys are so funny. And I'm also like, I could so be one of those guys, or The Big Bang Theory, or Seinfeld, or any of those,
Parks and Rec,
all of them. And, and I know I have that comedic performance in me. I know I have that commitment. I know I have that character ability. I know I have that.
Because now you've done improv, which is acting is reacting. So you've got all these improv hours of reacting to what's actually happening, which is one of the most important basics of acting, where you've also done characters, where you have to think on your feet. And now then you've done stand-up. So you've really got some big fat chops going on now.
Yeah. And I've been studying stand-up now for about a year with that same teacher or whatever. So between Dan Rouse and then Tony Visick, so my dream manager and my stand-up comedy coach, they were kind of working in both ears. And what ended up happening is the software company opened up a remote position for me so that I could move to LA and pursue comedy, but move out there with a job. So I'd have some income. God. Whole bunch of other miracles happened about how I ended up in Pasadena and the timing and everything. And everything just opened up. And so in 2014, I lost the girl of my dreams. I lost the improv troupe of my dreams. I lost my real estate career. But with that, I gained really following my heart and my dream and my passion, which has always been to perform and to spread joy through laughter, which is, from as far as I can tell, why God put me on this earth, unless he tells me otherwise.
Oh my goodness. No, I talked to him this morning.
Oh yeah.
He said, no, he said, I think Paul should stick with the comedy thing.
Good. And evidently I'm going to make it as well. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Said? Actually, God's a woman, but yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, I'm all about actually, have you read a book or heard of a book called Conversations with God?
Yes, I've heard of it. I have not read it. Is it so fantastic?
Great. Okay. The audiobook is great, but anyway, it's just this guy who's just writes questions to God and then he hears God's voice. But in the audiobook, the voice constantly switches back and forth between a male and a female voice with no explanation. And who needs one? It's because I've always felt that. I'm like, whoever's up there, come on. White dude with the beard. Come on. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Yeah. So, okay. So that is a fantastic story. That is a great story. And I have to say that I've really been listening to you. I've been riveted. And just about 10% of my brain is like, who can you set Paul up with? I swear to God, half of me, because first of all, you're adorable. Second of all, but you're funny and you have this huge heart and you have this spiritual life and you're on a path. And I'm like, oh my God, why? But I don't know any women, your age.
Worthy of this fine piece of man meat.
I know no one worthy. No one is worthy. And I'll have to work on that. But yeah. So, wow. So I do want to hear a little bit about the Pasadena magic that happened, because you've mentioned that so many times and we have a little bit of time. Tell me how how this good deal in Pasadena came about.
Sure. So I was actually raised with a religious background, and I do no longer subscribe to the religion, but it was a significant part of my life and upbringing for most of my life. So I was raised as a Mormon, and there's this website called ldshousing.org. And when I lived in Arizona, I used to live in this house, and I kind of managed it on behalf of the owner. So I'd always just rent out the rooms to other LDS singles, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I first thought of moving to California and I was just starting to get some information, I was like, oh, what is this actually going to look like? What is the real estate situation? Because all I've ever heard was it's expensive. And so I never really investigated. So I actually just went on ldshousing.net, and there was this room for rent in Pasadena, and it was like $750 or something. Like, I could totally do $750. That's nothing, right? I mean, I was paying $325 for a master bedroom in a 2-story bedroom house in Gilbert with a pool and a jacuzzi. But,
But you were in Arizona.
But $750, I have a full-time job. And I Googled it, and I'm like, this is like 20 minutes from Hollywood. This is perfect, girl. And I hadn't even decided I was moving yet. This was in like this was like after I'd had that interview with Dan Rouse, and he was just like, well, just start to see what it would look like. Just start getting information instead of just creating barriers.
Right. Like, creating the reasons why it can't work.
Oh, real estate's expensive. Great. Now I don't have to do anything.
Right.
How expensive is it really? And could I make it work? And what would it take to make it work? Right. So I find this room for rent, and I actually just emailed the guy, even though I hadn't even decided I was moving. There wasn't, that remote position hadn't opened yet. I hadn't talked to my bosses about it. It was like way premature, but I just emailed the guy who had the ad up.
Mm-hmm.
And he emails me back. He's like, oh, we actually just rented the room, but I'll keep you in mind. I was like, okay, whatever. And I was like, but it existed. I'm like, okay. So a room for rent for $750 close
in
to
Pasadena,
Hollywood exists in the ether. And that is something that I could make work. Right. So fast forward 6-7 months later, now the remote position is working out. Now it's go time. And at the time, a good friend of mine was moving out to LA at the same time as me. And he and I were in Los Angeles.
Another comic?
Yeah, another comic. And he and I were looking for places. And I was like, this is going to work out great. I know this guy. We get along great. We'll be able to split rent. This is going to be great. And we find this apartment for rent. And it's affordable. And we're going to be able to make it work. And we're like, I'm in communication with the realtor. And then he's like, oh, hey, Paul, come meet me for coffee tonight. And I was like, good, because the realtor of this apartment wants to talk, wants some more information or whatever. So I show up to coffee and he's like, hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
Is there any way
have changed.
That maybe you could just be on the lease and I won't be on the lease because I'm not really sure if I'm going to be around in a couple of months or whatever. Pretty much like, will you hold the bag financially and I can be off scot-free? And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And
bye-bye.
And I was still, pretty sensitive and not very confident in what I was doing, And I literally went into the bathroom of whatever the coffee shop was and like curled up in the corner of the bathroom stall and cried for a little bit. And because that's how I do.
Just for a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just cried a little bit.
Just a little weeping.
In the fetal position in the coffee shop bathroom.
It was the bigger stall though. I was not near the toilet, so I don't think I was in the splash.
It was the handicap stall, which is where you
worried about. It was for those of you worried about bacteria and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I was like, okay, well now I don't know what to do. So later that night at about 8 p.m., I get an email from the guy who I had emailed
Mr.
6 months before. And he goes, hey, Paul, are you still looking for a place to rent? Because we have somebody moving out. He just remembered me somehow. And I was like, well, it just so happens I'm in LA looking for places right now. And I'm moving out this weekend. When's it going to be available? He goes, oh, the guy's moving out Saturday. And I'm like, cool, I'll move in Sunday.
And the universe, oh my God.
I haven't even seen the place yet. So the next day I go see the place. So this was the room that I saw. And I was like, perfect. Signed the lease. His guy moved out Saturday. I moved in Sunday and been here ever since. So there you go.
Yay. Thank you, universe. Thank you, universe. Yes. Okay. Well, that is a great story for a number of reasons. And basically, the universe just kept nodding its head and you made a decision, even though you didn't know that you'd completely made it, you had made the decision. And that's why things opened up.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. So if there's somebody listening that maybe is, I don't know, hasn't even said out loud that thing that they've always wanted to do, but they haven't done it, what would you say to them?
Declare it out loud. Tell people about it. I find that it's really easy to keep it in here, but it's not real until you say it out loud.
Yeah.
And change the questions you ask, because our brains, what I've learned, are just problem-solving machines, and it will solve whatever problem we ask it. And if we ask a problem, hey, how come this won't work? The brain will tell you all the reasons it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then you won't do it. if you ask the question of, hey, how can I make this work? Or what would it take to make this work? Or what might that look like? Or how could I accomplish this thing? Then the brain will be like, oh, I got all kinds of answers for that as well. And then those answers will start to manifest and open up, and pathways will start to happen. And all I can say is you will be fucking surprised what the universe can make happen in your life if you just let it. I'm speaking to me. I am surprised what the universe has made happen in my life when I have just let it.
Absolutely. That is so great. I love that. There's a Bob Proctor. Are you Bob Proctor guy? He has a bunch of guided meditations, but one of them, and he says, if you can picture it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. But he also says, when you think about, it's an abundance affirmation. Picture somebody anybody that has the life that you might want. Like, I'm not articulating it correctly, but I always think of Tina Fey, or I think of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or I think of all the people that have these careers that are similar to what I'd like, where they're writers and performers, and maybe they're also producing. And it's like, think big and visualize it and plan it and let that resonate within you, and things change. Things just begin to change. So great story, Paul. I had no idea you were a law of attraction person. Makes me really happy to hear that, and I'm into it big time. We actually end with 3 questions, and I will give them to you one at a time. Is there something you hope to lose in the next year?
I hope to lose my fear and doubts of myself.
Excellent. Is there something you hope to gain in the next year?
I hope to gain a booking on a SAG sitcom role that is like for real.
Ooh, good. And ding, and so it shall be. Is there something you hope you never lose?
I hope I never lose my genuine, authentic heart and love for people when I am fame and wealth and all of that I don't lose the essence of my identity. And
you, once again, ding. No, come on, you're a heart-centered person. That's not going to happen, because you're a conscious person. You're coming to all of it aware of who you are, That's just my humble opinion. The lady with the podcast,
hey.
who's been on the planet a long time. So thank you, Paul. Those are all fantastic. And I think it's a great story. And I hope that anybody who's listening who hasn't said it out loud, whatever that it is, go ahead and say it. Tell your friends, and then start asking your brain the right questions. How do I make this happen? And, everything starts out as an idea. Everything starts out as a dream.
Yeah.
So, I had this idea of having a podcast. I got one. As a matter of fact, I got 2. So, So thank you, Paul. This was fantastic. And
it's been my pleasure.
Go to paulgreencomedy.com and you can find out his tour dates. I know he has a couple of things coming up in September, and we'll talk about that. Do you have the specific dates in front of you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the Roast Battle at the Comedy Store on September 10th.
Awesome.
That's September 7th. And then September 11th, I'm going to be at the Antelope Valley Comedy Competition.
And that's in Antelope Valley, I'm guessing.
Antelope Valley.
Great. All right. And in the meantime, guys, go out and see comedy. Just go out and go to a club and go see comics that you've never heard of, because everybody that you love now was at an open mic once.
Yeah.
So support comedy. And there you have it. So I thought he was adorable. I liked him a lot. Right? Like great. I could hang out with him.
Yeah.
He was funny and smart and sweet, and I don't know why, ladies, women in your mid 30s, mid to late 30s, check out Paul Green. He's adorable. If you're in LA, come on. But aside from that, he's a great comic, and go check out his dates. He's got 2 things happening in LA in September. Check him out at paulgreencomedy.com. And we have a letter. Am I right?
We do.
We have a letter that was inspired. Yes, we do. We do. Yes, we do. Indeed, we do. That was a letter that was inspired by Allison. Oh my God. And her Brazilian butt lift. And I checked out. Did you check out any of the videos? She sent us a bunch of links.
I got the email. I did not. I did watch the one that we did play on the podcast, which is hilarious.
Well, let me tell you, she was on QVC like 4 times.
Oh,
and
really?
every time she's like, oh, look at my butt. I love my butt. I mean, Brazilian butt lift was huge. You don't know this, Ronnie, because you're too young, but it was huge. And
really?
like everybody got those DVDs. So God bless her. So we asked our fans, we asked the listeners to contact us if you had some sort of an external event or something happened that created an internal shift. And this is what we got. Hi, Nelsie and Ronnie. See, I love it when they mention you. I was once in an airplane that was going down. Oh, my Lord. I knew I was going to die. I went through all the mental stages of dying, said a prayer that didn't help. Towards the end of it all, well, we know they made it because wrote the letter, right? Towards the end of it all, I felt peace and acceptance, and suddenly I was very calm. Oh, my God. So it must have gone on for a long time. Then the controls of the plane unlocked and we barely managed to pull out. Oh my God. And now I am not afraid of death. Wow. That's a big shift. That is a big internal shift. And that's Lucas M. Well, thank you, Lucas M.
Jesus.
Wow. Right? Uh-oh, Ronnie, you're about to get on a plane. Are you freaking out a little bit?
I am incredibly terrified of flying.
Oh, no.
I am.
Ronnie,
I really am.
Then how do you handle being on the plane for 13 hours?
Man, so, like...
Do you take medication?
I do take medication. And I only recently did... I traveled a lot. Like, you know, my dad's a journalist, and he would take me on trips like all the time. You know, I've been to so many countries, and the more I flew, the more scared I got of flying.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was more of the thought. And then that, like, every time I have a flight coming up, I think about it constantly, and it's something I deal with. Yeah. And you know, one time I was on a business trip from the Philippines to Malaysia, and it's like a 4-hour flight, really short flight, right? And
compared to 13, very short. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We were in the air, and the plane just dips, and it just dips, right? And I was taking medication for flying, but for that flight, I felt maybe I don't need medication this time. It's a short flight. You know, I have like, meetings after when I land. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
You don't want to be loopy. Nah,
I don't want to be loopy. And so my medication was in my checked in, which I don't know why the hell I did that. Just Ronnie, maybe I was testing myself.
Ronnie.
I know. And so we were flying, and like 2 hours into the flight, there's this sudden just dip in the plane. Like, full disclosure, I was in business class. I didn't pay for it, all right? But the reason I say that... Don't feel bad
about being in business class. For God's sake, brag about it.
I didn't pay for it. It was a company thing. But like, the reason I mentioned that is because I saw the lady in front of me's champagne in the air.
Oh, so that we're talking dip. Yeah.
Yes, it was a dip. Like, I felt I was levitating for 2 seconds, And
oh my Lord.
And man, like I've never felt so much fear in my life. And it was like my worst nightmare coming true for a second. And it just dipped, and it like leveled out, and that was it. But then
you were fine.
Well, internally I wasn't fine, because I started to begin having a panic attack on the plane.
Oh God, of
course.
Is
the worst place to do that. You're trapped in this metal tube in the sky. You can't do anything, And I had to, do my emergency breathing exercises and meditation, which helped a lot. And what really pisses me off about that is that the pilot just did not mention it.
Oh, that is, you've got to talk to us. Please tell us what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. Oh my gosh. I hate that.
Last time Doug and I went to Florida, I think I talked about this on the podcast. We were landing, and at the last minute, the plane pulled up. Like from landing to like
are you
down.
serious?
I'm like, fuck, what? And it was and I'm telling you, it was a solid minute and maybe more before the guy said anything. And everybody's going, like, my heart rate is, 200 beats per minute. He's like, oh, well, sorry about that, folks. But we were about to land and we thought visibility was okay. But in the end, we decided it wasn't safe to land. And then, yes, because he was already on the ground. Yeah, we weren't on the ground yet. No, we probably were. Okay. Maybe 100 feet from the ground. I don't know because there were clouds, right?
Oh,
and then he tries it again, and he has to do the pull up again.
This is torture.
Torture. And then he flies us to Baltimore, where we land and just hang out like in the plane for 20 minutes while they wait because we didn't have enough fuel. So we had to go to Baltimore to land. That's the scariest thing that I've ever had on an airplane. And it was scary.
Man.
And in my opinion, the pilot took a little too long to come back. We're okay, guys. No problem. Like if you do, we're landing. Whoop, not landing. You better say right away, guys, we're okay. I know that was scary, but we're fine.
Yeah.
You got to say that right away.
100%. And you know what's even worse about my experience was the airline was Malaysian Airlines.
Oh, Jesus. Right? And they had the Malaysian Airlines that went down.
Yes. So.
Oh, yeah. Honey, what are you doing? I guess you got to be on Malaysian. Yeah. You're going to be.
I'm really excited about.
You're really excited about your flight. Yeah, you got to get those time-released anxiety pills if you're going to be on for 13 hours.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, totally.
It's going to be fine.
Totally fine. Yeah.
So, well, you know what? Paul, he followed his dreams, but he also had two different people say things to him that had never said before. And suddenly he had a shift about from what he thought was possible and what he thought his life would look like, sort of to what his life could look like. So we had two different people say, what are you doing here? Like one person's saying, what are you doing here? And the other person's like, you should, what's your dream that you've never said out loud?
Too many signs.
So, yeah. So have you had signs that are external signs from people that you couldn't ignore? And so consequently you made a big change in your life.
Have you seen that movie Signs?
Yes.
I haven't. But I watched this movie that referenced the movie Signs. And I think it's about signs. But yeah, whatever.
Wow. Have you seen that movie Signs? No, I haven't either. Okay. Good story, Ronnie.
Yeah.
When you're on Jimmy Fallon, don't lead with that story. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Didn't know where I was going with that one. You got what I was trying to say.
Not really, but that's okay. So that's all the time we have. And is this on you'll be in the Philippines by the time this comes out.
Yes,
right?
I will be in the Philippines and alive and on the ground.
And alive and on the ground and happy.
Super.
All right, guys. So having said all that, please rate and review. Please subscribe. Rate and review. Tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram, Losing It Podcast. Same thing for Twitter. Same thing for TikTok. Same thing for Facebook. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. You know where to do that, right down there. Yeah. And please comment. If you have a Losing It story, send it to us at losingitcontact@gmail.com. And maybe we'll read it on the air. I will end this podcast, as I always do, with some advice that comes straight from my heart. And that advice is don't poop in the ocean.
Losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it. You came and you listened to the story. I hope so much that it didn't make you sorry, and I hope so much that you'll come back again.
Losing It, hosted by Nelsie Spencer, produced by me, Ronnie Whaley. Theme song by Hunter Williams. Follow us online on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all podcasting platforms at Losing It Podcast. Viewers can email Nelsie with questions or comments about life, writing, comedy, or even your own Losing It story for a chance to be on the Losing It Podcast at losingitcontact@gmail.com. For everything Nelsie and everything Losing It, visit us at nelsiespencer.com.